Sisters meet. Galileo Galilei. Ivy and her sisters were on their way to the Missouri City Library. They loved to read books about space and the stars. As they walked, they talked excitedly about what they would do if they could visit the moon or explore the planets. Suddenly, they heard a commotion on the street corner. They saw a man with a hat and a long beard. It was Galileo Galilei. They knew who he was from their books. Galileo was in a hurry and didn't notice the girls at first. But Ivy boldly approached him and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Galilei. We are big fans of your work. Can we say hello?" Galileo smiled kindly and replied, "Of course, my dear. It's always a pleasure to meet young people who are interested in science." He asked the girls if they had any questions, and Ivy eagerly asked, "We heard that you have a lecture soon. What will you be talking about?" Galileo looked worried and said, "Well, that's the problem. My telescope was stolen, and I don't have another one ready. I don't know how I will be able to teach my students about the wonders of the universe without my beloved telescope." Ivy and her sisters looked at each other, determined to help. "Don't worry, Mr. Galilei," they said. "We will help you make a new telescope. We love space too, and we know how important it is for you to teach your students." Galileo was touched by their offer and said, "Thank you, my dear girls. That would be a great help. But we have to work fast. The lecture is in 3 days, and I don't have much time." Ivy and her sisters followed Galileo to his house, where he showed them how to make a telescope and explained how it worked. They worked hard all night, cutting and polishing the lenses, adjusting the focus, and testing the image quality. When the new telescope was finished, Galileo was amazed at how well it worked. "You have done a wonderful job, my dear girls," he said. "Your dedication and hard work are truly inspiring." Ivy and her sisters beamed with pride, happy to have helped such a great scientist. They knew that their adventure with Galileo was just beginning, and they looked forward to learning more about the mysteries of the universe. Chapter 2: Unexpected Obstacles. The next day, the girls went to visit Galileo to see how he was preparing for his lecture. When they arrived, they found him pacing nervously in his workshop. "What's wrong, Mr. Galilei?" Ivy asked. "I'm afraid there's a problem," Galileo replied. "I received a letter from the University of Padua stating that due to unforeseen circumstances, my lecture has been moved up by 1 day. I now have to deliver it tomorrow." Ivy and her sisters looked at each other, realizing that they would have to work even harder to help Galileo. They spent the whole day making improvements to the telescope, testing and adjusting it to make sure it was perfect. As evening approached, Galileo emerged from his workshop, looking pleased. "It's perfect," he declared. "But there's one more problem. I just found out that the lecture hall has no electricity, and I need to demonstrate the telescope to my students." The girls looked around, unsure of how to help. Suddenly, Ivy remembered a trick she had seen in a book about the history of electricity. "Mr. Galilei, we can make a simple battery using lemons, copper wires, and pieces of zinc. It won't produce much power, but it should be enough to power the telescope." Galileo was skeptical but willing to try. The girls found the materials they needed and set to work. They sliced the lemons and placed them on a plate, then inserted pieces of zinc and copper wire into the fruit. Ivy used her finger to connect the copper wires, and the effect was immediate. A small current flowed through the wires. Galileo was amazed. "That's brilliant," he exclaimed. "I never would have thought of that. You girls are full of surprises." The next day, with the new and improved telescope and the homemade battery, Galileo delivered his lecture to a packed auditorium. The students were captivated by the wonders of the universe as revealed through the telescope, and Galileo was at his best, captivating and inspiring them with his passion for science. At the end of the lecture, Galileo thanked Ivy and her sisters for their help. "Without you, I would never have been able to pull this off," he said. "You have shown me that with determination and creativity, anything is possible." As they walked home, Ivy and her sisters felt proud of themselves for helping such a great scientist and for learning so much about science, perseverance, and the wonders of the universe. The girls felt grateful to have met Galileo and have a part in his lecture. They hoped they could continue to learn from him and other great scientists like him. As they walked through their neighborhood, they noticed the stars above them shining brighter than ever before. Ivy and her sisters looked up at the stars, feeling in awe of the vastness of the universe, and they knew that they had helped unlock just a small part of its mysteries with Galileo's telescope. From that day on, Ivy and her sisters continued to explore the wonders of science and the universe, using their own creativity and determination to solve problems and make new discoveries. And although they faced many obstacles along the way, they knew that with perseverance and the help of great minds like Galileo, anything was possible.